Next on MLR Weekly, a topless, perhaps, owner of the Chicago Hounds, Mr. Phil Groves. Major League Rugby headlines via John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Previews and opinion from Bryan of America's Rugby News. And the MLR's Best Recap. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City. The world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. To MLR Weekly, as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for tuning in again. We appreciate it, and we don't think you'll be disappointed. We've got a big show for you, including a topless, perhaps, owner of the Chicago Hounds, Mr. Phil Groves. We've got Bryan of America's Rugby News with previews and predictions. We've got the best recap in rugby. But before we get to any of it, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break, with John Fitzpatrick, read Major League News and / headlines and stuff like that. John, how are you? Welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Matt, hold on. Let me just put in my, there we go. There we go. Now I can hear you.
Wow, you are so high-tech and hip.
At first, I was just staring at your beautiful face, but now I can hear your beautiful voice.
I get that a lot. I got a face for radio. Next!
Hey, let's start in the Eastern Conference, where the New York Ironworkers secured the second seed in the Eastern Conference, and they will host the Eastern Conference Eliminator game on Sunday against Old Glory DC, who they did get their bonus point win over Atlanta in front of a large crowd. I was there, close to 3,500 fans. Thank you to Paul Sheehy and OGDC for honoring dads by letting them on the field at halftime to throw the ball around. It was awesome. But Matt, back to the action here. New York versus DC. They split the regular season record 1-1 with both home teams winning. Who do you like in this one, New York or DC?
I like the way Old Glory is entering the playoffs. They did their job. They had a good offensive output on home soil. New York got the 1 point to get in by scoring 4 tries in an effort that was less than what they probably wanted, the coaching staff, but it gives the coaching staff fodder this week. So I think New York holds home court in a very explosive offensive game. A lot of points for both teams. Next!
Let's stay in the East, where the New England Free Jacks won their 10th straight game, and in the process set a new club record with 14 wins in a regular season. Also, Matt, speaking of fan attendance, over 4,700 fans packed Fort Quincy, setting a new record there. They saw their boy LaRue Milan score a hat trick, but there are a couple injury concerns there. Bodine Waka and Mitch Wilson both had to leave early. Now, they do have an extra week of rest because they have the bye as they await the winner of the Eastern Conference Eliminator round. But Matt, New England, they just seem to be storming right along.
Yeah, great venue. Great management, great coaching staff, reasonably priced beer, great fan fest. They're doing it right. New England is a formidable team. Next!
Hey, let's go out west, where the San Diego Legion extended their win streak to 13 games and finished with an MLL record 15-1 regular season game. Matt, that's impressive. There's no way you've won 15 rugby games in your lifetime. But they have a bye in the first round, and they await the winner of the Western Conference Eliminator. The Seattle Seawolves host the Houston SaberCats. Matt, who you got, Seattle or Houston?
One individual doesn't win rugby games. It's a team sport, okay? That's number one. Number two, I think Seattle rested some players, to say the least, against San Diego this weekend, down in San Diego. They're going to get those guys focused on Houston. Houston did the same thing going up into New England for the most part. I think the home team is served again. Home cooking serves the home team. And I think up in Starfire, the Seattle Seawolves beat the Houston SaberCats in another exciting, high-scoring affair. Next!
Matt, here's an Irish word for you. We got to talk about that Donnybrook in Dallas with, count 'em, 1, 2, 3, 4 feed red cards between the Dallas Jackals and the Chicago Hounds. A little bit of a dust up there. I know rugby values and all frown upon, fighting. It's kind of accepted in hockey. Matt, punch up, good or bad for the sport?
Well, there is a history here. There's a history. The Dallas Stars were the Minnesota North Stars. The Minnesota North Stars and the Chicago Blackhawks had a fierce rivalry. And basically, I'm going to say that it carried over to Dallas. And dropping the gloves goes back to those two franchises. And now it's with Dallas and Chicago in the MLR. So I think it's great. Next!
I didn't know ice hockey was such a passionate following in Argentina.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's right up there. Next!
Matt, one more thing. I got to bring this up because I saw this on MLR Reddit. But in the Chicago market on FS1, when Chicago played the San Diego Legion, over 147,000 fans watched that on television. In contrast, later that day, in a Major League Baseball game between the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres, a little over 226,000 fans watched it. That gap isn't very big. Matt, what do you think of that? Promising signs, right?
That's only 76,000 is my mathematics adds up. Yeah, that's great. We're growing the game. Good stuff. Good job. Next.
Hey, Matt, I'm excited. The playoffs are here. I can't wait to watch it.
Thank you to Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning Coffee Break. Now, before we go ahead with our guests, we have to look back at what we saw with the league's best recap from yours truly. The Chicago Hounds and some of their rabid, get it, fans went sniffing for another win against their canine cousins, the Dallas Jackals, in the place that Nolan Ryan, who would have been a good number 6, used to bring the heat. And it was the heat and the exciting finish that had Chicago owner and today's guest Phil Groves taking off his shirt and celebrating with what is becoming one of the best fan bases in the league out of Chicago. The Hounds jackal the win from Dallas and end the season on a high. Tails up with a 2-game winning streak. Final score 29-28. In the nation's capital, Old Glory had a difficult path to navigate in terms of securing a home playoff game versus New York. But DC has played with a spirit of 76 type attitude from the opening week, and they went out and took care of business against an Atlanta team that played tough and did not mail it in. A record crowd at Segra Field saw Old Glory light up the scoreboard and put the pressure on New York. Final score, 36-28 DC. At York Lions Stadium north of the border in Tirana, the Arrows were not sharp in the first 40 minutes as visiting NOLA looked to be coasting to a much-needed win. But Toronto dropped their gloves at halftime and fought back. 22 tackles from Jack McRogers and 167 meters on the ground by Talatasi nearly facilitated a miracle comeback, but a healthy Tom Florence got a brace of tries and a gaggle of Canadian geese for the gold in a 26-24 win. The Houston SaberCats went into Quincy, Massachusetts with absolutely nothing to play for and plenty to lose if they lost one of their starters ahead of the eliminator game in Seattle. New England, however, had a sellout crowd in Quincy, along with a bye week ahead of them, so the Free Jacks were looking to put on a show. They did just that, despite giving away 2 yellow cards and accumulating 15 penalties along the way, because they scored 7 tries. All eyes will be on Bodine Waka, though, who left the match looking a bit banged up. Final score, 47-24 Free Jacks. On the northern border of New York City, the Ironworkers controlled their own playoff destiny versus a Utah Warriors team that was coming off a devastating loss and playing without Cruze, Mano, and Lasike in their backline. But Coach Greg Cooper's Mountain Men came to play, and after New York secured their needed 1 point by scoring 4 tries, they were stunned by the rampaging Warriors right at the start of the second half. New York, though, secured the home playoff game, helped by 2 tries from Call me Ishmael. Shabazz. Final score, Utah 43, New York 33. At Oh Snap Dragon Stadium in San Diego, the top two teams in the Western Conference played defense like they do in the NFL Pro Bowl or NBA All-Star Game. Seattle rested players ahead of their showdown in the eliminator match with Houston, while San Diego put on a show for their big crowd in the sun-soaked Southern California locale. With the luxury of a bye week ahead of them, but their win streak's still alive. The Legion played with enough fire to score 6 tries, 2 by Jason Higgins, but may have lost their captain, Blair Cowan, because of a red card. Stay tuned, as some cockamamie mitigation from the league offices may be forthcoming. Final score, San Diego 40, Seattle 19. Let's take a break.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
Hey, you need rugby cleats and you need them tomorrow? Well, rugbynow.com. www.rugbynow.com. If you order them today at 3 p.m. or by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they have youth cleats, male and female. They have adult cleats, male and female. You can have them by tomorrow if you order them today, 3 p.m. New York time, noon LA time in the United States. Rugbynow.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Back with one of the people that is becoming one of my favorites in MLR, Major League Rugby, and that is Phil Groves of the ownership group of the Chicago Hounds. Phil, great to have you back.
Oh, thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
All right, so Phil, let's get right to it. You're being called the Mark Cuban of rugby after your celebration in Dallas after your team had that dramatic win on another Chris Matina kick. You had your shirt off, Phil.
I'm sorry for that, for anybody that had to witness that. But my kids are still hiding, I think, from their friends. But it was an exciting day. I mean, what a great way to finish the season, our first season. I have a lot of passion for the sport. And, I'm more of a fan than, the operating part of the team. But, it was so great to be down there and had a lot of great people in the box supporting us. And to see the boys, work their way through, dozens of red and yellow cards and come out on top was, what a great way to finish the season.
Yeah, were cards on sale? Is that why you guys kept cashing?
Yeah, I think there was some discount. I mean, you figured, we're fighting for the wooden spoon, so you might as well do it all out there that day. So,
Well, I'm complicit in the wooden spoon thing because we did forget, and we could just say that it's because they're from a different country, but the Arrows clearly claim the wooden spoon as the wooden spoon winners in the league. But if we're going to go on the American landscape,
we're worried about the Western Conference, that's
fair enough.
Fighting, because we play them twice a year. So, but not to denigrate the Toronto team, but it was really us and Dallas in that one.
Yeah, so the Western Conference wouldn't.
Western Conference, yes.
Yeah, there's the asterisk. You're not the league. Yes. It wasn't but it was the dog eat dog bowl.
It was. There was a lot of howling going on.
So a lot of howling.
We did our best to bring it. So,
all right. So now, what's the follow up with the shirt coming off? I mean, is that now people are expecting it?
Yeah, well, I got to get in shape. I think that shows that. So, our fall season training probably starts August 1st. So I got a month to get back in shape, to start playing for my club. But But I think I'll just try to keep it on from here, and then maybe I'll bring a flag next time to wave or something.
It's been a tumultuous first year in terms of wins and losses, but you guys have had some really tough losses, and then you've finished strong.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons you learned about this year?
We learned some lessons, but we did some stuff well, right? We have a fantastic CEO in James English. He put together, really, I think, a knock-up staff. Sam Harris has such confidence in what he's going to bring to us long term. So it starts with those guys really driving things. But yes, of course, there's always lessons to be learned. I think, at least on my side, I work more on the community side, is that earlier fan engagement and getting in and out in the community, had a little more runway. We probably could have had a little better, at least from my part of it, experience, on game day for people, get more people involved, more teams playing before us. But we're getting there. We got a youth tournament kicking off during the final on July 8th, with Pass It Back, which is the World Cup charity. So we're really excited to partner with them and Memphis Intercity Rugby to bring that, and then that'll probably carry on until the rest of the season. For season long, we're gonna have this one in July, so people get to see what we're doing there. A little tough to start that, in the snow. So, but I think we'll get it set. That'll be a full round year thing. So we're happy with that. But I think we just starting up on a ticket thing, getting a new stadium, all that stuff. You have to do it to understand it. And again, James did a great job with that. And I think every week we're learning something new. But I think that period's over. Our learning curve will be less steep this next year for sure.
All right. So you mentioned Memphis Intercity Rugby. Great program, by the way. And my co-host on the Rugby Odds, John Bradshaw Layfield, is on that board. Shane Young doing great stuff down there. And now you guys are going to piggyback that in Chicago?
Yeah, we're going to try to work with them. I think they might rebrand it a little bit, called the Urban Rugby Initiative, but Shane's obviously leading that, and we'll replicate that in Chicago is the goal, and around the league, hopefully, in all the major rugby cities, because it's a natural thing to have one of those programs, because Memphis City Rugby is it's a longer duration. The Child Fund Pass It Back, which is the World Cup charity, focuses on that 10 to 15 year range. So you could run them both simultaneously, and I think you'll see that in action in July at the final, working together. They're very complementary programs, and so we're really excited that Shane does a great job down there. He's got so much passion for it that there's no reason we can't have that in every city in the MLR.
Great stuff. And you mentioned snow, so that'll allow me to segue to the schedule. What do you think about schedule changing or keeping it the same for the league, for the matches?
I know they're talking about the league level. I don't. It's above my pay grade, but I think they have an open mind. From what my understanding is to find other ways to look at the schedule and do things that work for, the teams and the players and the fans. And so I certainly they haven't set anything up yet. I don't think they're even going to worry about that till after the final, but I would suspect there'll be some sort of modification, timing wise. If nothing else, having less games in Chicago in March, even if you keep the season the exact same, maybe that, but again, they didn't get to start working on that till November. And obviously, for instance, Dallas, they run the XFL there earlier in the season. So, there are very few stadiums, I think, are single-use stadiums where there's nothing else going on. So some just beyond the league's control, and I think, probably of the 12 teams, I'm sure not more than one or two control their stadiums, all year round. I mean, obviously we share a stadium with a professional soccer team, two professional soccer teams. So, we don't get to choose everything we want ourselves. So. All
right, so Miami will be added to that mix next year, so you'll at least have that warm weather destination to go to. But if you're a gambling man, how many teams are in the league next year? Is it going to be 13? Is it going to be 12? Is it going to be less? What do you think?
Oh well, it's certainly not going to be less than 12. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be 13 right now. No one's told me differently yet. But
that was a trick question. I was trying to weasel my way in there with
no one has told me anything different. I'm counting on 13.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Definitely counting on 13. I guess I'd be surprised if it was 14. I probably would have heard something by now if it was 14, but I haven't. So, but I'm really excited for the league. I think the Miami ownership group's a great group. They get along very well with some of my co-owners. So I think everyone's excited to have them in there. I think that's the type of group that we'd love to have more in the league.
The fan experience. You lead from the front because you've traveled with the team to some of the different venues. What's your overall take on what we got to do to get more fans?
Yeah, I think, that is, the funnest part of my job is really interacting with the fans. I think we have an embarrassment of riches here in Chicago and the Midwest because we have so many clubs that are so passionate about it. The things to work on is, listen to the fans, ask them what they want to see more of. And I'm getting a lot of feedback now. And hey, maybe we could do this differently next year. For us, I think, really we need to have games before our games, kickoff games, because, we have 3 fields outside our stadium. I've had a great time going to all the other almost all the other stadiums in the league. The fan clubs are fantastic. There's some real leaders out there. Obviously, the folks in Seattle and Dallas and New England stand out in my mind the most because I just happen to see them a lot and talk with them a lot. And I think, it's good to see what other fan clubs are doing. We have a great fan club, the Kennel Club, and they all talk to each other. So, before every game, they're all talking to each other, setting up tailgates, for the visiting team. And so I think that's great.
I got to ask you this one because it's out there on social media, the players filing to unionize. What's your take on that? And there's a vote, I think, on the 7th, and that's the day before the final.
So I'm going to wait, see what happens with the vote, and then, whatever happens. But it's certainly an important issue. It's something I think we just need to resolve, whatever it is, and stop talking about it and just, see the result of the vote and then work from there.
Is there any kind of preemptive talk going on to, so that, God forbid on the 7th they vote to not play the final and you got fans traveling across, it would be a disaster. Are talks ongoing?
I have no idea. That definitely, not with me, that's for sure. So, but obviously the league office has people that handle that stuff, and so, they're not sending out daily blasts to all the owners. Here's what's going on. I think, every team has one person on the board, and so our owner handles that stuff, and the other owner does that. So,
all right. So 5-year vision for the league.
The best thing that can happen to this league, in my mind, is a USA Rugby team that's making the World Cup, making it out of the first stages, getting into the knockout rounds. I mean, that is the thing, because what that will mean is if that's what happens, that means the MLR is doing a good job of developing more talented U.S. players and getting them game time. So I think that's the top.
Oh, so you're one of those.
Yes, I'm one of those. Yes. So, but I think we need to we need to develop. If we develop our talent, it'll show up on the U.S. team. I mean, so I think because the MLR, we got all these players and we got to grow them now. That's why the Hawks and the Falcons, those teams, and Brendan down there is doing a great job developing talent. The people in that thing 4 years from now, those are the ones we need to be developing these next 4 and 8 years. On the big picture, the macro is we want to keep growing the league. Making more say and getting more people to come to the stadium, more watch it. So we have to work on the fan engagement. But I personally think the better the U.S. team is, the more people come to games. I think it just, to me, I know, of course, I can't prove that, but that just goes where I'm going. I think a lot of people look at what's happening in other leagues around the world. Obviously, Premier League in England has some issues with teams. So I think we're studying that very carefully to make sure that we don't fall in the same trap.
Yeah, but I mean, it's we're seeing all kinds of stuff happen across the globe. And, we're only 6 years in, but we are 6 years in and we survived a pandemic. So it's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the future is really bright. I think, there's a lot of really smart people running MLR. There's a lot of ownership groups that are really smart. I don't know everyone, but the ones I know, I'm always impressed. These are smart business people. And I think the people that are interested in joining the MLR are really smart, and they broaden out our experience. And so I think it's really exciting. Okay. Yep.
Cubs, White Sox, or Commanders?
No, I'd probably go with the Cubs. I live closer to the Cubs.
And who's going to hoist the shield this year?
I don't know. I watched the game last night. I tell you, San Diego looks impressive, but I wouldn't count on any of those 6 teams. And we're excited to host it here, and selling lots of tickets, and we got some great fan stuff going on. Got Shaq doing this stuff, and
awesome stuff. All right, Mr. Phil Groves of the Chicago Hounds. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll be right back after this. And we are back with our longtime friend, Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. There's nobody that knows more about rugby in the Americas than Bryan Ray. Bryan, welcome.
Thanks for that exorbitant introduction there.
We've got 2 playoff games, eliminator rounds, we're calling them. And we've got Seattle hosting Houston and New York hosting DC. Which one you want to break down first, Bryan?
I mean, if we start with the West, who is Seattle going to put on the field?
They're going to have pretty much everybody.
I mean, these guys are a bit beaten up. AJ Alatimu, another one who's pretty sore. They rested everybody. But that said, so did Houston. They rested almost everybody against New England. They're the only guys really, they had CLC Mahoney and Dean Muir in there because they needed minutes because they're coming back from injury. So both teams rested pretty much their entire starting side. Danny Barrett played like 40 minutes. So I don't think we're going to be worried about that. It's really just what kind of injuries are they carrying into this one. So I'm very interested to see what kind of lineup Seattle puts out. I'm interested also. I mean, Houston has some interesting selection decisions to make. They got, if everybody's fit and ready to go, they got some real quality in that pack. Hankel Hermes, I doubt he's going to start. I mean, he might not even make the 23. They've got so many strong loose forwards to pick from. So that's going to be interesting. Houston traveling to Seattle, the travel is going to be a little bit of, something to overcome. Not a huge thing. I don't think the kickoff time is going to be anything that is going to cause them any real problems. And, if anything, that field kind of suits the way that Houston plays. We saw that game they played earlier this season in Seattle was just a brutal match. The collisions were unbelievable. So I expect more of the same. I mean, this is going to be really a heck of a battle. I'm honestly kind of tempted to pick Houston in this game, which seems kind of, I don't know. They've got a strong team right now. They look good. Yeah, I'm going Cats in an absolute squeaker, like by 3 points.
The Ironworkers, New York, hosting their Eastern rival, Old Glory DC, who just keeps doing things right.
More of a clash of styles, this one. I mean, Old Glory does not want to get in an arm wrestle with New York. I mean, that kind of plays into their hands. Even without Nate Brakely, that's not something they want to go to battle with a pretty solid pack. I mean, with, Hewitt and Dalzell in that second row, they're a couple meaty blokes. And, as much as Kyle Bailey loves to be in the wars, that's just not the game that Old Glory plays. They want to throw the ball around, play hot potato, get it to the likes of Lasonga and Junior Sal out in the wings. So that's an interesting clash, even though, I mean, you look at New York, Fido, I haven't mentioned Teofilo Fido, is he going to be playing? I'm assuming he is. You're assuming Andrew Coe's going to be back in. I mean, it's not like they're, slow out in the corners either. So this is another tough one. But if you look at the last game, I mean, you'd have to say Old Glory played better than New York. And I don't know who to pick in this one, but I'll tell you what, I know you're picking New York. So I'm tempted to go with Old Glory in this one.
Whoa,
I've been doubting them all season. All season I've been doubting these guys. And I think I might have to pick Old Glory just to even the scores here. Two really, really intriguing matches this weekend. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. And I hope that both of those venues are absolutely packed to the gills because they deserve to be for this level of competition. And I can't wait to see the players leave it out on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friend. Thank you for your wisdom and your time once again. Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. I also want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning for his coffee break segment. Thanks to Phil Groves of the Chicago Hounds, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the Rugby Odds, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please sign up for our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.